started. Okay, so the recording just started there. And just a quick introduction for myself. My name is Emily. I work for APA for the customer engagement team, and I do training and support. So if you ever reach out with a support question or have training sessions for your institution, you've probably seen me before. I see a lot of familiar names and faces, but it's just really nice to see everyone. Thank you so much for showing up. We like to keep these like fairly, relaxed. It's a relaxed time to just check in and get together with this group to let you know about a few updates, and then just like let this time be for you. So if you have questions, we love also hearing feedback. I think we'll have plenty of time after what I have planned to present. At the end, we'll have plenty of time if anyone wants to share, maybe things that have been going really well, maybe some things that haven't been going super well with Academic Writer. We will take all of that feedback and take it straight to our product team, and they love hearing it. So we will do that. And then also, Jana, if you wanted to just give a quick introduction for yourself. If you're still on mute.
Hi,
there you go.
Yep. Jana Pariser. I feel like I've talked to most of you so far. They call me a customer success specialist, so my job is really to help you use Academic Writer as effectively as possible.
Great. Thanks, Jana. But otherwise, maybe if you would like to go ahead and test that chat and just drop in a hello, maybe say where you are calling in from today. We always love to see where everyone is. I'm in St. Paul, Minnesota, where it's finally starting to get a little bit sunny and a little bit more springy feeling. So do love that. But okay. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. I think I had things set up that I need. Back here to the home page. We are talking, of course, about Academic Writer specifically today. You should have, with the registration, seen our agenda of items that we plan to cover. So I have just like a couple notes to go through. Then we'll talk about support resources, where you can find some resources to support your students. And we also are going to talk about an AI reference form that's new. And we're going to talk about a new feature called focus mode. And then after those items, we're going to do kind of a spotlight. It's not a brand new feature or a very new feature, but we're going to talk about tables in Academic Writer and how to add those to papers and how to import those. It's a feature that I know a lot of students use. We don't often have them have this incorporated into a lot of our training sessions, just because we do a lot of introductory sessions with students and don't often have time to get to tables. So we thought with this spotlight, we'd just take something we don't often, get into that much and take a little time with that. Yeah, so I think the first thing, just a note to mention, so we take things that we learned from our product team to help us build these new features, webinars, with mostly librarians in this group. So I know we usually get great engagement with these, librarians are just, they're into it, they're into the product, they want to know, they want to learn about things coming up. So we always like having these sessions. But yeah, wanted to share some pretty a large amount of work went into some backend improvements. So we just heard this from our product developers. So they worked on actually like rewriting some of the backend logic and made some, it took a lot of work, but it's not something you're gonna actually really see a lot. There's nothing for me to really demo, but we do know that it has improved the speed of within the product. So improve that functionality. So maybe you have noticed that some of the actions have gotten quite a bit faster. Just a couple examples that product gave us. They said that if you had a 55-page paper and went to save it. So that used to take about up to 3 whole seconds, and we're down to 1 second. So it's a great reduction in time there. And I know it seems like maybe a little bit trivial to talk about saving, a couple seconds, but I always say with Academic Writer, you save seconds, 1, 2 seconds here and there with all the automated features, with all of the functions. But all of those seconds, when you think about it, they really add up and help students save that precious time so that they can really focus on writing their paper and the quality of the writing and the research. And just another quick example, if you're familiar with the check tools, and there is a check to check for reference duplicates in the references. So it's just a little mini report, but that went from 5 seconds all the way down to a half second. So we're making things faster, making things work more efficiently. So just a little note there. The next thing I wanted to talk about, and I can actually show, is some support resources. So first off, some of you just might not be aware that APA Publishing and Customer Engagement, Academic Writer, all part of APA Publishing. So, because the APA is actually a publisher, of course, they publish the publication manual, journals, databases. So in our publishing YouTube page, we have several training videos. So maybe you maybe didn't even know that we have a YouTube page. So that's why we are showing this. So there are some recordings of different webinars and some shorter videos on specific skills. Like here we have using the reference center in Academic Writer. We have some recordings from past new features. So this webinar that we're doing now, we have a recording of that in here. We have a user group session, so some feedback from users and things like using the check tools, inserting citations. So some specific, things to learn about, some specific skills like these adding in-text citations, and then also just some general, like a general introduction. So if you have a lot of students coming to you, maybe they just need some extra help, this is just one place to refer them to. And I believe that, correct me if I'm wrong, Jana, didn't we get the YouTube link? Yeah, so down here in the footer of each page in Academic Writer, you'll see that link to our YouTube, and I'll go directly to that. So just encouraging you to use those resources, use those recordings. I know students appreciate having those videos to use. All right, and then I wanted to share also just about our site help. We call this our Learning Commons. This is where students can get the quickest, kind of that first line of response. So we have this is our support page, our knowledge base. This is where students can come to find our frequently asked questions. So we have quite a few in here. We're always we're continuously adding to these. So as new features are added or things are updated or changed, we'll try to create a article to reflect that. So we're up to 76 of those articles. You can do a search on a topic up here. You can also just scroll through. So topics we have covered here, things like how do I add references? How can I delete a paper? How do I use grammar check? How do I start an annotated bibliography? So when we click into there, it's a pretty in-depth, response article to that specific question. We often try to incorporate screenshots to kind of guide the user so they can see exactly, have call outs in the screenshot so they can see exactly what to click on. So very detailed responses to those questions. So we just really hope that they're getting used. And know that librarians appreciate just having somewhere to direct students when they do have questions. So just wanted to highlight this, our knowledge base here. And then I'm going to go back to the main academic writer page. And if I scroll down just a little bit where it says can't find your answer, you can see how you can contact our support team directly. So if I click contact academic writer support, I will see a email form. I'll just need to fill in, what is the case type? So some general types there, the subject, and then your question can go in the description, and then your contact information. It will go directly to our team. We're a very small team, just a couple of us, a few of us in there answering questions, but we really do work hard to try to respond as quickly as possible. And we even have a team later in the evenings and weekends there to help answer questions. So if students are coming to you with questions, you can direct them here, and they can also use this, of course, in those off hours. All right, and then I wanted to share also with this page, so we have our other products here. So if you do have APA databases at your school, this is where they can contact the APA databases support as well. So we have them all here in one spot. All right, so that is how to reach out to us. So just a couple resources for support. Any questions at this point that I could answer about anything I've covered? Okay. All right. Okay, so then the next thing I'm going to show is an actual new feature that I can share. So I'm going to go back to the Academic Writer homepage here, and then we're talking about a new reference form. So this is going to be in the Reference Center. And then from here, I'm just going to go to my Add References options, where I have the full list of reference type forms. So different forms that correspond with the specific reference types. So I'm guessing most of you are pretty familiar with these by the already, how to navigate through these. We have like the broader type of resource and then more specific, so our periodicals, and then narrowed down to journal article, newspaper, etc. So we're talking about the AI reference form. So this is actually going to be under the software section. So our APA style experts, of course, AI is everywhere these days. So APA style has, created a specific format for referencing an AI generated content, essentially. So under the software field here, we're just going to choose AI generated content. So let me click on that and pull that up. So here it's, just like all of the other forms, look, it breaks it down section by section. So I have my reference type I can view here, and authorship, date, and so on. What's really great here, I was looking at this earlier, it's just so helpful, even just understanding an AI source, basically, because it's not your typical reference source. So here there's just some description. So AI generated content may be text, images, other content created by artificial intelligence platforms. So like ChatGPT, of course. So students should always follow instructor guidelines about how and when and if they should use this generative AI. So we're not trying to say, always just encourage referencing AI information, but when it is necessary or appropriate to use those types of sources, you have this option, of course, to create a reference for it. So, of course, we want the students to follow instructor guidelines of when to use that AI generated information, but when it is appropriate, they can use this form. So there's our guiding information with the question marks. Usually in all of my trainings, I tell students, if you see those little question marks, go ahead and click it. It's just going to be helpful information. And then so we have more help with like the authorship field here. So the authorship would be the organization that created the model, algorithm, or other code. That's the author element of the reference. So for example, if creating a reference for text that has been generated by ChatGPT, you would use OpenAI for the author. So very clear, this is, guiding information for this specific reference type. And then, so we have our author, we have our date here with some more guidance. So include only the year of the version you used, not the exact date that you used the model to generate content. Very specific, very helpful. And then we have more with our title, some specific field here. And then, of course, our source, right, the name of the publisher. So yeah, a lot of really helpful guidance there with the use of AI generated resource. And then I also wanted to show here, our product team has included this link to a blog post that someone was mentioning just at the beginning of this session. So you might have seen that already, but it does refer the user directly to that, which I think is really helpful. So for further details, see this blog post. So I'm going to click into that actually to show you. So, oh yeah, this is written by our coworker, Tim. He's one of our APA style experts. So this is all about, here we go, how to cite ChatGPT. I don't know why I always get tongue-tied saying that, ChatGPT. So if you have students who are asking for specifics on, I use AI, how do I actually reference this? Here is a specific article addressing that. And then once they, read through the article, understand it, they can also use the academic writer reference form for more specific help. So I hope that really kind of covers AI and helps students as they are using these new types of technologies. All right. Any questions about using the AI reference form?
I personally never thought of the author, Emily. I'm so glad you went through that. I was thinking about it because we're supposed to be using Copilot if we do stuff. So we would cite Microsoft as the author.
Yeah.
Thank you. I learned something new. I appreciate that.
I mean, this was just really helpful, just understanding how to break down the source, how to break apart the parts of the reference. So really appreciated it. All right. What are we doing? So let's see. The next thing, I think that's everything with the AI source. So again, that's just in our usual reference form. So you would just go to the reference center and then it's under software. So software and then AI generated content. And then I didn't mention this, but of course, once you fill everything out in the form, you have your usual fields for kind of the not required sections of the reference, but kind of additional for you. So the things like description, quotations, if you wanted to add notes and tags. So those are, optional, but very helpful. And then once you have filled out everything, you will just add to my references. And just like every other reference form, it will create the APA style reference and add it to your collection. All right. Okay, so then the next thing I'm going to show you is another new feature, and that is in the Writing Center. So I'm actually going to go to the Writing Center. So you could go to your file cabinet and just pull up a paper. I'm going to go through the Writing Centers here. So I'm going to work on a saved paper, so a paper I've already created. And I'm just going to choose my paper here that I use for a lot of demos. And then we are just talking about this focus mode. So this is a very new feature. It really, we hope, makes the product more user-friendly for students. This was created based off of user feedback that we heard, especially from librarians who were reporting back from students who are using the product actively that sometimes it could feel a little crowded and cramped when you're writing your paper, and maybe even a little distracting. So we made the focus mode so students will have less scrolling and the screen will feel expanded and less cramped, and really helps them so when they are, in that flow of writing where, the thoughts are flowing, the words are flowing, and they're really in the zone, that it helps reduce any distractions. So let me go ahead and click into that. So this is letting me know I'm entering, it's right up here in the top right, focus mode. So I'm entering focus mode. It expands the text editor for a streamlined experience when writing your paper, adding citations or callouts. And then this is just a note that it is going to limit down some of the functionality that you'll see, but of course you can always go back to the regular view to add these things. So it's going to cut out from view things like appendices, footnotes, the paper settings, and some other tools, but you'll be able to access the menu from here. So then I'll just hit confirm. And then you can see we have a lovely, just much more real estate here, it's expanded, more space to breathe. You can even, if I scroll down, there's a little expansion here, so I can expand it more. So, I'm just not scrolling quite so much. I can see more of my paper on the page. So then the tools that are available here in focus mode, I'll just talk about those real quick. So of course we have the text editor and the toolbar. So those of course are here. We have our grammar check up here in the toolbar. That's the little ABC check mark. So that of course is still available. I can turn that on and off. We have, if I click this little ellipsis here, whoops, that will expand my options. So that is the same. So I have all of those tools for formatting. And then you also have access to your comments. So if you had noticed before, we did have a full screen mode. Yeah, we had a full screen mode, but you couldn't really see the comments. And that was part of the feedback. So now you can access the full comments here. So I can see if I am using this paper in a collaboration and I have a peer that is making comments on my paper, I can see those now. So that's great. And then, so you can see the comments up here. You can also see the related help. So this exists over in the regular view of the paper as well. So it's just the little question mark up there in the top right. So the related help I can view, it walks me through the paper section by section. So all of that is still over here, helpful as I'm writing. And then also we have the verify information. So this alerts me, you'll see a red exclamation mark. So typically things that are imported, references, tables, if you import those, maybe there's a missing component of it. you will see that alert that something needs to be verified. So that's still going to show up. You're also still going to see, let me scroll down a little bit. At the very bottom, you're going to see where you can cite references. So here, I click Cite References. This looks just like normal in the Reference Center. Here, I can go to my reference library. So my 109 references, I can still see which ones have already been cited in this paper with the green cited listed there. And I can select a reference and add that in-text citation into my paper. So that functionality is the same. So that's still there. Let me X out of this. Then we also have our call out for tables. You can do that. I have my tables here. We'll talk about these in just a second, actually. So here's my tables I have saved in my account, and I can add the call outs here while in focus mode. And then the same for calling out figures. So if you have images, figures that you're adding into your paper, you can still control that in focus mode. And then just a couple things that are not available in this mode are the preview. So you would have to go back, exit focus mode, or go to the main menu to view the preview. Also the export, so you cannot export from focus mode, you have to exit. And then also the title page. So the title page form is not included in this. This is, specifically for the paper body and adding references and things. So yeah, but we hope that students like this. We encourage you to, let students know that this is available for them. I hope it helps them kind of when they're in that zone of writing. All right. Any questions I can answer about the focus mode? Anna, anything you wanted to add about that? I think we're pretty good.
You did a great job. I
Okay.
love the new focus mode. I feel like it's so much nicer.
Yeah, I gotta get used to it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So then the last item on our agenda here, let's see, is just to talk about tables. So I was thinking, just before this started, actually, just to mention a couple things about resources for students who are working with tables. So we have this whole feature in the Writing Center. So it's going to be in any paper that you are writing. You can access the tables feature over here on the left. And then you can also add your table callouts down here at the bottom. But before I demo that, I wanted to go and just remind you that back in the Learning Center, we have quite a lot of content here specific to tables that if students are struggling, having a difficult time with working with tables in their papers, just to remind them, we do have, I think it was a quick guide, let's see. Yeah, there's a whole section under the quick guides. So I'm in the Learn tab under quick guides, and we have a whole section on tables and figures. So figure components, we have a quick guide that is table components, and then also table guidelines. So 2 quick guides to review. Let's just look at the outline real quick. So we have our table components. This goes through table number and title, column headings, table body, table notes, and it even has a mini quiz at the end. So helpful information there for anyone working with tables, having a difficult time. And then we also have, of course, this whole tab of sample tables. So there's 8 of those. Why isn't it showing up? See. There we go. So sample tables here. there's 8 of them, different types. So, correlation table, needs table, meta-analysis, and you have these specific examples to go in. And if you just need to see exactly how that table type should be formatted and look at it, those are really helpful also. So that's another resource. You've got the quick guides, you've got the sample tables. And then when you are feeling ready to add the tables in, I'm going to go back to the writing center and go to one of my papers. I'm going to choose the same paper. So then when you are ready to add the tables into your paper, over here on the left side, you can access the tables tool. So from here, you can manage your tables and then also view your paper table list and then add tables to this paper. So this is going to open up my table. So my tables is my full table library. It's very similar to how the references are set up. You have your full reference library and your paper reference list. So just like that, we have for tables. So your full table library, and then also the tables that have been, that you can add to this specific paper. So hopefully that makes sense. And then from here, you can add a new table. So if I come here and click on Add New Table, you have 2 options for adding tables into Academic Writer. You can use the Create Table option. So this is a tool that you can just use directly here in Academic Writer. You can add a title here. So this will just be a really my table, really creative table title. And then your table body here. So very similar to the table creator in Microsoft Word. You can use this little grid to, choose your columns and rows. Click that, you can enter in your specific information into the table there. And then you can add things like notes and even more detailed table information below, and then save it and it will be added to your tables. And then the other option, let me go back. Okay, wait. Okay, so that was the create option. You can use the grid directly in here and build your table, or you can import tables from Word. So I'm just going to choose import from Word. I had a couple in here to show. So if I just select that, and then I had table demo, choose that one. I'll open that. And then this is just a silly demo table, but then it's from that document, it's gonna basically parse out the tables that are there. So if you had multiple, it will show up. I can choose the table I want to import and then click begin import. So then it's telling me congratulations, the import process is complete, and I can go to my paper table list so I can see those tables there. So this one, you can see that that red exclamation, that's an example of that verification that's needed. So it's alerting me that something is missing. So I can go directly here to the edit and click on edit, and then it's going to let me know exactly what's missing. So in this case, it's the title. So I'm missing a title for my table. I'll just enter it there, and then I have my table, and I can save, and it's updated there. So that's how you add the tables into your account. So you can just click add new table, add as many as you want. And then here's the paper table list. I I can remove them if I need to. If I check the box, I can remove it from there. So that's how to add some tables. I'm gonna close out of this and actually go back to my paper. Close out of this. And I'm gonna scroll down just a little bit. So below my paper body where I can add these citations and call out, we have the option to call out tables. So if I click on that, I can view it's on my paper table list. So these are tables added to the paper. And I can select sorry for all the scrolling up and down, but I can select the table that I want to call out. So I have the option to call out. So that would, like an in-text citation kind of. So like kind of citing the paper, the table. And then it would mention it in the paper and it would show up at the end of the paper. So after the references, that would automatically happen. So I would just choose where I want to add that call out or that mention. So I have, I have that option, or I can choose to embed the table directly into the paper. So users have these two options. One's not more correct to APA style, one's not, better than the other. I think that the important thing is just that users, once they choose one option, they stick to it. So they would always choose the call out option with tables, or they always choose the embed option. So hopefully that makes sense, but just choose one and be consistent throughout the paper. So then, yeah, you would just choose the call out. You can choose if you want it parenthetical or narrative, hit submit. It will drop in my call out. So it's got table 1, and then that table will show up at the end. Let me make sure, let's check it. So I'm gonna go to my preview, and then it should show up. Sorry, my computer's being a little bit slow. Here we go. At the end after the references. So let me scroll back, all the way back. And there's my, oh, lovely figure. I actually don't remember which table I added. It should be showing up there. Maybe I didn't select the correct table, but it should be showing up right after the references. Let me double check here. Got my table 1. And sometimes when you are working with adding in table callouts and figure callouts, it does take, just a little bit of time for it to update. So maybe you might need to refresh the page, but it should add that table into the very end. Let's check it again. I'll have my figure. Where did it go? Well, I might have to mess with that a little bit. I'm not sure if I made a mistake in there. Jana, did you happen to notice? I feel like I added that in.
Did you add any other tables to the paper?
I really just added the table call out. Let's see. Let's see here. Called out. I feel like it should be showing up at the end there.
And no other tables have been added or called out?
I don't believe so. Let me try.
Oh, weird.
Okay. look at this. All right, I've got my cursor. I want to select and call out, parenthetical, submit, created.
Oh, if you scroll down, you have a table already added.
Oh, that's why.
So
Thank
if
you.
you hadn't, I thought that had to be why. That's why I was like, did you already add a table
Yep.
embedded? Okay. Once you
Yep.
embed it, Academic Writer will not create that table reference list. It will just refer to the table. And if you add like, say, a call out to that table, it's going to change the location depending on where it is. So if you add an additional call out, it does a lot for you.
It's after, of course, I was just making the point, stick to either calling
Yeah.
out or embedding. I went and didn't do it myself. I think I just forgot that I had any tables in there. But yeah, so then if you do run into issues like this where you put in two formats of calling out tables there or adding embedded table, you can, if you go through and delete these call outs, and then I would have to go back in and then add and then embed it so that it's consistent, or remove the embedded table and then go through and add the call outs. So, but yeah, that would be why. But it's kind of like this tool, it requires a little bit of kind of just experimenting with getting in there and adding some tables and adding some callouts to become familiar with it. So I think maybe that's why we don't always show it in our introductions, because it's, just takes a little time to go through those steps. But yeah, I'm glad we got to go through that. Any questions that I can address about tables, or I think we are at a good point if we have any questions about anything that I've talked about.
Carol asked a question. So users would need to call out and embed the table. So really you're going to do one or the other. If you have embedded the table, it's only going to be embedded once, and every subsequent reference to that table would be a call out. Or you could only call out tables, and then Academic Writer would build that table reference list at the end of the paper, and you would only have call outs. But yeah, you wouldn't necessarily do both. So if you're going to embed them all within the body of the paper, you should do that, but it's only going to embed that table once. And then every subsequent reference to the table is going to be a call out. Does that make sense?
I think I'm just having trouble wrapping my head around it.
I
So
know.
if you call it out, then it's going to embed the actual table at the end.
Yes. So see here, Emily
So I removed the table that I had embedded within the text. So that was what was preventing it from adding here. So then I just added the call outs in the text will then initiate here to have the table show up at the end after the reference page.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Which is probably better if you're using larger tables. So Teresa had asked if there are any restraints on how big the table can be. And no, you can make it as big as you need to, as long as the information can kind of fit on the page. So like your columns should fit within the page, either in portrait or landscape. And then if you have so many rows, it goes to the next page, that's fine, and vice versa. But if you have too many rows and too many columns for it to fit on the page, then you would need to consider if that table needs to be scaled down. But in Academic Writer, we don't necessarily have any restrictions on how big the table becomes. It's just reverting back to APA style guidelines.
right.
Table.
It's a fun one.
I know. It's rough. I feel for those advanced students working with tables.
I know. Any other questions?
Oh, did you have on your agenda the
Did I miss
upcoming
something?
features that we're working on?
I did not. Did I
Oh,
miss that?
no, I did want to mention that we are working on additional features, which we'll probably demonstrate in another session. But one of the exciting upcoming features that I did get permission from Lindsay, our product manager, to talk about
Okay.
is the proof of completion for quick
Oh, yeah.
guides and tutorials. So they're working hard on figuring out how students can submit a proof of completion for any assigned quick guides or tutorials. So if you're using an LTI integration in your LMS and you want to assign like the basics of APA style, you have to know the basics. We are working on a way for students to submit a proof of completion. And they're also hoping to include additional quiz content. So the knowledge check is meant for the students. It's not necessarily a quiz, but more of a quiz for those students to kind of assess their learning. So that's on the roadmap. I can talk about it, let you guys know that that's out there and we're working on it. Oh, Mary, you had a question about reference pulling in data from a citation manager. Did you have a specific citation manager that you guys use? RefWorks, yeah.
RefWorks. Yeah, we have some time. I can show that real quick. So importing from RefWorks.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you go to your reference center and then choose to add references, and then you want to use the import option here. So import, and then you will just select the origin, which RefWorks is down there. So we have different reference managers and also databases listed. So just choose whatever that origin is. And then, so from RefWorks, you would have to export a RIS file, save that somewhere you can easily get to, and then just choose that RIS file that you exported, and then import it here. So hit submit. It'll take a few seconds. It will put all the APA information in the correct fields, all the reference information, and then it will add it directly to your My References. I hope that helps.
Yes. Thanks for reminding me. Yeah, Mary, got it.
Yeah.
I think the main issues with importing content that I've seen is we can flag the missing elements because it's missing and we know that it should be there. But I have noticed that some of the RAS files will put the entire name in the last name field. And since you can have an author with only one name, we can't necessarily flag that. So I always try, and I know Emily always tries to remind users that check your content that's being imported just in case you see like a full first name. That should be a red flag without there being a red flag. So yeah,
Yeah.
you just want to double check those to make sure the information has been imported correctly.
Yeah, it's not going to change or add any data. It's not going to mess with the data coming at all. So students should be very cautious when using the import. And yes, it's a great time saver, but they still need to just really check those closely. anything else? And if anyone has any feedback or anything that they'd like to share, we'd love that also.
You can feel free to unmute too. That's fine. We left it as a meeting just in case.
Yeah.
So we can talk, right? Okay.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
you're recording, so I didn't want to do that.
All questions are always great, especially for people who are watching the recording. They might have thought of that question, so you asking it for them is super helpful. All questions are good questions.
Oh yeah. But yeah, if we don't have any others, I think we're at a good time. We'll have the recording to send out, and I hope that this was helpful. And it's just nice to have some time to get together. So we'll keep doing these and look out for the invites in the future.
Thanks everybody for attending.